Yeah, can we start? Ajay, am I audible? Yeah, hi, good evening. Am I audible? Can I start? Hi, friends, good evening. Uh, Today we are going to discuss some very, very interesting aspects of diabetes and COVID 19. We are living in the era of the coronavirus, and however much we might deny, these are very, very uncertain times. And during these uncertain times, there are two key issues. One, we don't know what is going to go or happen in the future. And the second, we are overloaded with information around us. The problem is there is information overload. We are constantly hooked onto the news and we are constantly on the social media, exchanging messages, forwards, without even checking the reliability of these messages. In many cases, these messages are spreading unnecessary wrong information, and people are ending up getting affected by this information and doing things which they ideally are not supposed to do. So today's session will basically deal with the do's and don'ts during these times. Although my larger focus will be on diabetes, all the things that I tell you today are applicable to everyone. I would also appreciate if you can share your thoughts and you can ask as many questions as you want. As we go along the talk, I will try to answer maximum questions. So let's get started. The first very, very wrong myth around is that if you have diabetes, you are doomed. If you get coronavirus after having diabetes, you are definitely going to die. This is the biggest misinformation spreading around us. We all know that diabetes makes us more prone to almost all infections. So if I have diabetes, I am obviously predisposed for many other infections. So it is not unique for the coronavirus. Secondly, what is most important is that your sugar controls should be good. Did you know that over 20 to 40% of the coronavirus patients are diabetic? And how many of them are actually dying? Hardly 3%. And in those 3% also, all are not diabetics. What does this data show? This data clearly shows that even if you are a diabetic and you end up getting the coronavirus infection, there are very, very high chances that you will become absolutely normal and you will have no other issue. But what is the key there? The key is good sugar control. And that is why we keep insisting to our patients that for everything, your sugar controls have to be consistently good. They should not fluctuate often. That is a very, very key thing. So even if you end up getting the coronavirus infection, which is very, very less chanced if you follow all the guidelines given to you by the government, there is no need to panic. It's just another infection. There is no cure for fear. There is no cure for anxiety. So first of all, get rid of your fears, get rid of your anxiety. I have been seeing some of my patients having diabetes are now ending up worsening their sugar levels while they're sitting at home. In fact, they are getting more time for themselves. They should be having better sugar control. So why is the sugar control worsening? They are not eating outside junk food because it's not available. You know the main reason? The main reason is unnecessary worry and stress that they are taking about this infection and what is happening outside. Please realize that the infection outside is not under your control. What is under your control? To stay at home, to keep social distancing when you go outside, to wear a mask, to not go in crowded places, to regularly wash your hands, sanitize them, and be careful. You just have to do these simple things and the virus will not enter your home. Please remember, you yourself bring the virus to your home. The virus never enters. Try to understand that when you take unnecessary stress, your body releases a lot of negative hormones. Now, these negative hormones basically raise your glucose levels, and your tablets or medicines or insulin, the doses that you were taking, then end up becoming insufficient to control your sugars. So remember, just unnecessary worry or stress can also raise your sugar levels by more than 40 to 60 mg per dl, that is 40 to 60 points. So suppose your average earlier was coming to be 180 in a random blood sugar, you can end up getting 240 with the same diet and same medicines simply because of stress. So stop taking unnecessary stress because it's not going to help you in any way. In these COVID-19 times, at home, it is very important to closely monitor your blood glucose. And you can do it simply with a glucometer. In cases where your blood glucose levels are really very fluctuant and variable, then your doctor might advise you for continuous glucose monitoring using a glucose sensor, which is also very simple. But in most cases, you can use a glucometer. Now, what are the targets that you should be looking at? If you are a diabetic, you should be looking at somewhere under 130 as your fasting sugar. Don't be very tight with yourself. Anything below 130 is fine. And as far as the post meal is concerned, that is 2 hours after any main meal, like your lunch or dinner, we can look at somewhere under 180 as a right sugar level. So these are the two numbers that you should be really bothered about. 130 in the fasting state and 180 to 200 maximum 2 hours after your meals. If you're maintaining these sugar levels, then it is steady and you can continue your same medication. If you are seeing a lot of fluctuation and many times you're getting about 250 in your glucometer, then you definitely need to get in touch with your doctor. Now, how do you get in touch with your doctor? In these times, it is most advisable to take a teleconsultation. Why do I say that? It's not only because the doctors are having difficulty going to their clinics and maintaining the guidelines. It's also because you yourself, having diabetes, are more prone to infection. And when you go to a clinic and it's not required to go there, you are ending up exposing yourself to an infection. So in maximum cases, you can deal with your problem staying at home through a good teleconsultation. In case the doctor requires to examine you or check you, then definitely you should visit the doctor, but only after his prior permission. In most cases, don't venture out unless absolutely required. That's most important guideline that you need to follow in these times. So let's get started with a few myths that people have. And I've been hearing these, I have been listening to these, I have been getting messages, and I thought this is a good session to clear all those myths. The first is that people think that taking a hot shower or a hot bath will kill the coronavirus. This is very wrong. This is absolutely myth. Because however hot the water is in which you take a bath, your core body temperature never changes. It always remains the same. So the virus is not going to be killed. You will end up burning your skin. And if you're a diabetic, remember, do not have a bath with very hot water. You should always use lukewarm water because most diabetics have some form of neuropathy. That is, some nerves are affected in those patients. And that is why having a bath with very hot water can damage your nerves. So the first myth very clearly is, do not go for a hot shower just to prevent the coronavirus infection. It won't be prevented. The second thing I heard is that people uh, are doing warm water saline gargles all day, and they're thinking that this will flush the virus out of the respiratory tract and the virus will then not reach the lung. Now, this is also a very, very wrong notion. Gargling with salt water can definitely help if you have a sore throat for any reason, whether it's allergic, it's viral, it's bacterial, it helps you, definitely. But if you don't have a sore throat, doing such gargles or drinking warm water whole day is not going to benefit you. So please drink normal water at room temperature. There is no reason in this heat that you keep drinking warm water and disturbing yourself. Definitely, you should not be drinking cold water. That is obvious. But then don't end up drinking very hot water or warm water in the thought that this will prevent the infection. So please, this is also very, very wrong. There are also some people who have started taking some Ayurvedic kadas, as they call it. And as long as that kada is made at home with homemade ingredients, it is still better. But if you're just buying some kada from a kirana store and then drinking it every day under the presumption that this will protect you against the coronavirus infection, it's very wrong, because you don't know the exact content of the things that you are consuming, and you can end up having a bad time with these kadas because we don't know what impact it will have on your liver and kidney. There's a question here. I'll just take a few questions as we progress. Mr. Sandeep Singh has asked us, Doctor, can you suggest what essential items do I need to store? There is definitely no dearth of items around us in most urban centers. The best thing that you should have in place is medicines should be in order. You should have a stock of 1 month of medicine with you. Your insulin doses should be there with you. Your glucometer strips should be there with you, because these are the key things that are required. Otherwise, all other essentials are easily available around us, and we can always modify our diet based on what is available around us. Secondly, because I have come to the concept of diet, you're sitting at home. So stop binge eating, stop eating at odd times, stop snacking on unhealthy stuff just because you're sitting and you don't have anything else to do. This is very, very bad, because this is the main reason for worsening of sugar levels also, and for causing a sore throat. So suppose you end up getting a sore throat because of your eating habits, you will again unnecessarily create panic and then think whether you got a coronavirus infection. So if you have to take good care of your throat, eat healthy. So what is healthy? I think you should focus a lot on fruits and fresh salads. I think these are best. Again, don't indulge in too many fruit juices, because please remember, the fruit juice only has sugar in it. It does not have much of the fiber content. So if you're a diabetic, you're ending up drinking a glass of sugar in the name of a juice. So instead of juice, eat fruits. That is more important. And you can eat salads, cucumber, tomato, onion. These are very good vegetable salads that you can have, the greens that you can have during the day. You can also munch on peanuts, almonds, walnuts. These are good nuts, and they are high in good cholesterols, and they are very low in sugar. So they can help you. Rest of the time, follow your routine. It's very important to follow your routines. So we have come to routines. What do I mean? That don't change your breakfast, lunch and dinner timings. Most importantly, don't change your sleep timings. It's very important. Again, I'll tell you, there is a common thing nowadays, because you're at home and suppose you're going to get up late in the morning, you end up staying awake till very late in the night, sometimes 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then you're going to sleep. Please remember that your body follows a certain biological clock. Okay, and the biological clock cannot change according to lockdown. So when you are not sleeping at the time you're supposed to sleep, or routinely slept earlier, your body ends up producing counter-regulatory hormones. And this also can worsen your sugar levels. They can raise your stress levels, and you can end up feeling very, very weak and tired the next morning. So this is very, very important for you to understand that you should not sleep at odd timings. There was a question here we just missed out. Do I need to leave things I like best if I have diabetes? No. You can eat most things in diabetes, but in moderation. It's very important. I tell my diabetic patients, if you love mangoes, you can eat mango, but reduce your serving size to half what you used to eat before. Eat it on odd days. Don't eat it every day. And then do some physical activity. That is very important for you. Again, if you're addicted to sugar and sugary foods, then I think having sugar-free substitutes is the only answer for you, because ending up eating sugar is not going to help you. There was another question that can I go outside for a walk during the lockdown? Definitely guidelines don't allow you that, and we should not go out if we are being told so. But at home, you can do a lot of other things. Best is to do simple stretching exercises, which are very simple to do. Yoga, if you are well versed with, even simple yoga exercises. Doing aerobics at home is very good because it's a very good source of exercise, energy, and positive hormones are very important. Another question has come up. What are the common risk factors of hypoglycemia during Ramadan fasting? It's very important that you don't eat fast or easily digestible carbohydrates during the Sahri period in the morning. That is, don't eat very, very light foods like only depending on rice, too much of rice or potatoes. And then what happens is that your sugar levels spike and then they go very low during the day. Okay, so that happens with consuming a lot of rice and potatoes in the morning. Consume high energy proteins in the morning during the Sahri. People who feel very, very fatigued during Ramadan, there is one good tip. You can take 1 tablespoon of electrol powder in 100 ml water, that's half a cup, and you can drink that every day just before your fast starts. This will keep you energetic throughout the day. That's very important. Okay, so moving on, I was going back to your sleep routines. It's very important to sleep on time, to wake up on time. Now, when you don't wake up on time, what happens is, suppose you were routinely acclimatized to waking up at 7 a.m. and you end up waking up at 11 a.m. So what happens with this is that your body's biological clock has already started at 7 a.m. and you're still asleep. So when you get up at 11 a.m. instead of 7, you feel groggy. Why? Because your body has become active, your cells are active, right? And you are sleeping. So don't do this. Don't change your routines. It's very important to follow strict routines like you used to follow earlier and not change your lifestyle. And then you can control your sugars very well. There's another question. Can a diabetic would be non-diabetic by controlling diet and doing exercise? Please remember, you never become diabetic overnight. Diabetes is a process that takes many years to happen. So the earlier stage is called pre-diabetes. So all of us are in either of the 3 stages. We're either normal or pre-diabetic or diabetic. These are the 3 ways in which we can be, right? So if you're pre-diabetic, this is a stage when the body is giving you a signal that your sugars are not getting controlled well whenever you are eating something which is causing spikes in sugar. So in this pre-diabetic stage, yes, if you do very strict diet control and you do good amount of exercising, both aerobic and weight training, you can definitely postpone and in some cases even prevent the onset of diabetes in you. But suppose you are already a diabetic, I will advise you that do not depend only on diet and exercise to prevent diabetes, because diabetes initially will not show any other complication, but it has a very interesting concept called the legacy effect. What I mean by this is that after 10 years or 15 years of diabetes, your body organs start getting affected. And this happens because in the initial stage of diabetes, you did not control your sugars well. So at that time, you had no symptoms. But after 10 to 15 years, your sugars might be under control because now you have become serious about your sugars. And then you will start seeing that your kidney or your nerves or your eyes are not doing well. Okay. And then at that stage, you'll ask a doctor, oh, my sugars are very well. And then why is it that my kidney is not doing well? It's because of the legacy effect. So it's very important to take your medication right from the beginning. When you are diagnosed with diabetes, please take medication because it protects not only your sugar levels, but also all your organs like your eyes, heart, kidney, nerves, absolutely all organs in the body, right? Somebody is asking me that do pain in legs have any impact in diabetes? Yes, pain in legs are due to 2 causes in diabetes. One is due to diabetic neuropathy, which is very, very common when the nerves get affected because of a prolonged rise in your sugar levels. And the other is diabetic arterial disease, in which because your arteries are not getting, are stenosed or have some blockage, the blood supply is not reaching the foot, and that is why it can cause pain. Now, these 2 pains are different, and that is why you should inform your doctor if you are developing chronic pain in the legs, so that he can assess whether you have neuropathy or arterial disease and accordingly treat. So both of the problems have different treatments. Another question, along with medications, what are the supportive exercise, food and fruits for diabetic neuropathy? Please remember, diabetic neuropathy is a very, very troublesome and painful disorder. So the first aim is to prevent it. We should not have a patient with diabetic neuropathy. The second thing is that if you have developed neuropathy, the most important thing, even more important than taking the neuropathy drug, is to keep your sugars under control. That is the most important. If you keep your sugars under control, then your neuropathy will automatically start reversing. Okay. In terms of fruits, again, there are two categories of fruits. One which have high glucose content and the others which have high fructose content. Now, fructose is something which is very, very sugary and also has some negative impact on your liver. That is why you should avoid high fructose containing fruits if you're a diabetic. Example of these fruits are chickus, custard apple or sitafal, bananas. These are the kind of fruits. Even mangoes contain fructose. So you should take very less of these kind of foodstuffs, and you can shift to foodstuffs which have low fructose content. So good fruits in that category are guava, peaches, strawberries, pears, apples, pineapples, pomegranates, watermelon. These are fruits which can easily be consumed. Citrus fruits, oranges, sweet lemon. All these fruits are very, very important for you if you are a diabetic. They have good glucose content and they will not cause spikes. Again, if you're a diabetic, don't be afraid. You can easily eat fruits. They have no problem to your sugar levels. You can only monitor your sugar levels. As I told you, rather than eat some junk food or indulge in eating breads, pizzas and samosas, which are very, very harmful, it's better to eat a serving of fruits. It will not harm you. There's another question. Does having diabetes means I'm higher risk for other medical problems? Yes. There is a theory called the common soil theory. Common soil theory means a soil in which two plants can grow. So there's a common soil theory in our body also. The reasons for which you get diabetes are the same reasons for which you get heart disease. So diabetes and heart disease have common soil. That means if you have diabetes, you are definitely at more risk of developing other heart diseases and metabolic diseases. And that is why controlling your sugars are not only important from the diabetes point of view, but they're very important to prevent long-term heart disease in you, right? So this was about that. Now coming to the next myth that people have nowadays is that pets will cause the coronavirus. So if you have pets, please don't stay away from them. Pets are in fact excellent emotional support for you during these times. There is no doubt about that. So don't stay away from pets. They will not spread or cause coronavirus infections in you. It's very important. You can stay with your pet. So that is one common thing I have heard. The next I have heard that coronavirus will only affect older people. So we need not take care. We all youngsters, we'll get some mild asymptomatic infection. We'll be fine. Please remember, as many as 20 to 30% people who have unfortunately died of the coronavirus infection are youngsters. So they are not only old people. And we cannot define one person as being old or one person as being young, and this person will get the infection, the other will not get. Please remember, even newborn babies as early as the first day or 7th day of birth have been diagnosed with coronavirus, and the patients abroad in the age of 98 to 99 have got. So across the age spectrum, people are getting the infection, and there are multiple other factors which decide how you will get healed with the infection. So don't be overconfident and go out and think you're young, and if you get the infection, it is okay. Also remember, don't only think about yourself. There'll always be elderly in your home and you have to take care of them, because even though you pick up the infection from outside, you can become a spreader in your house and pass on the infection to your family members. There's another question before I move forward. The question says, how can we manage hypoglycemia? Please remember, hypoglycemia is more dangerous than diabetes, because diabetes is a chronic disorder. But hypoglycemia is a very risky thing because it can affect your body immediately. So first you should know how to diagnose hypoglycemia. Very important. What are the signs and symptoms that you have low sugars? The first few signs and symptoms that are very common are feeling of sudden tremors, feeling suddenly weak, feeling lightheaded, feeling dizzy, feeling palpitations. That means your heartbeat going fast. That is very common. So these symptoms, if you are facing, you should immediately check your blood sugar in a glucometer. If your sugars are coming low, that is under 80, under 70, definitely it is hypoglycemia. And then the first step to cure this hypoglycemia, please remember, is to take 3 tablespoons of sugar, raw sugar, and immediately eat them. Take those 3 tablespoons of sugar, and after that, check your sugar after 5 to 10 minutes. If it has still not increased, again take those 3 tablespoons. Remember, this will increase your sugar levels for a short period of time. It will protect you, but it will not lead to long-term rise of sugar levels. So you have to then consume something which will slowly release sugar in your body. Milk is a very good source. So you can again mix sugar in your milk and have it immediately, maybe a cup of milk, and have some biscuits or a chocolate immediately after some time, and then keep checking your sugar maybe after half an hour, after 1 hour, and you will see that your sugars are well under control. Okay, so this is how you can control your hypoglycemia. People who are taking insulin have to be extra careful and monitor your sugars more regularly. Before starting a meal, before starting to eat something, please check your sugars and then decide your insulin dose. If you are ill, you have to follow the sick days guidelines. That's why if you're ill, please check your sugars regularly and accordingly modify your dose under the guidance of your doctor. Don't take the same doses if you are consuming less food, because you will end up becoming hypoglycemic. So it's very important to follow these guidelines. Also remember, a bedtime snack is a very good way. Taking a bedtime snack is definitely very beneficial for diabetics. What is a bedtime snack? It's not some junk food. It could mean a cup of milk, hot milk without added sugar in the night before sleeping, or consuming a fruit just before sleeping can keep your sugars well under control throughout the night, and then you need not worry about being hypoglycemia during your sleep. So this is one way you can control it very well. Okay. We can have more questions. Until then, I'll continue with the myths. The next myth, somebody told me that because a sanitizer can kill the virus, so drinking alcohol will kill the virus in the stomach. Please remember, again, this is a very wrong notion that drinking alcohol will prevent the coronavirus infection. It has no relationship. The virus is in your respiratory tract. It's not going to your stomach. And the alcohol that you consume is hardly 15, 20, 25 or 40% to the maximum concentration. And for killing the virus, you require the alcohol concentration to about 60%. So even when you buy a sanitizer, see to it that the alcohol content in the sanitizer is about 60%. Otherwise, just applying the sanitizer will give you a false sense of security. It will not kill the virus in your case. Okay. Another question that is coming up is that diabetics have low immunity. So how can they improve their immunity? Most importantly, diet decides your immunity. Okay. And second is your vitamin D levels. Now, very important. Apart from diet, we've already discussed that in detail before. Vitamin D is a very, very potent vitamin, and it's not only good for your bones, it is very, very important for your immunity. Okay. So how can you increase your vitamin D? Please remember, sunlight is a very good source of vitamin D, but you cannot stay in the sun whole day. So taking 30 minutes of sunlight in your balcony or your terrace is good as of now. You can also consume vitamin D supplements after getting your vitamin D tested or under medical guidance. Please remember, these supplements in the form of tablets, capsules or sachets of powder are very safe and they raise your immunity very well. Please remember, keeping your vitamin D levels are good. Vitamin C plays a very important role in immunity. So eating citrus fruits like oranges, sweet lime, and using lemon lavishly in your diet is very good. Use lemon in your as a dressing in most foodstuffs that you eat. Having lemon water is very good, but again, don't use refrigerated water, which will again make you prone for a throat infection. There's another question people are asking me, that you can get dehydrated during diabetes. Again, I told you, taking 1 tablespoon of electrol in 100 ml of water just during your Sahari period, that's an early morning period, can keep you well hydrated during the day, because we just consume a lot of water in the morning and we feel we'll remain hydrated. To remain hydrated, you have to have good amount of salt and water. So water alone will not cure your dehydration. Okay. But yes, taking salt along with water will help you. If you don't have electrol, a simple mixture of taking salt, water and adding a little bit of sugar free if you're a diabetic can also help you. Some people have asked me, are dates safe for diabetics? Dates do contain a certain degree of sugar in it, but if you're just consuming 1 or 2 dates in the morning before you're fasting, it's absolutely okay. It will not cause any problem. There's another question, does drinking milk increase my sugar levels in diabetes? No, milk, although contains natural sugars in the form of lactose, is very, very beneficial to your body and does not spike your sugars. Please remember, everything that we eat will have some sugars in it. So we don't have to leave things. So milk is very healthy because your calcium levels, phosphorus levels all remain good with this milk. There's another question. Is black grapes or having any role in increasing immunity and reducing diabetes? Please remember, I told you before, grapes are again a fruit in the category of high fructose content. So they have very high fructose content, and I will not advise you to take grapes regularly during diabetes because they will cause sugar spikes. So that is there. Next question, diabetes patients taking insulin causing more gastritis. Insulin per se should not cause gastritis because it's an injection that you are taking. So it will not go in your stomach or cause gastritis. Many people get gastritis with diabetes is because they have prolonged periods of fasting. That means they eat their lunch in 1:30 or 2 p.m. and then they're consuming dinner at 9:30 or 10 p.m. There's a gap of more than 7 to 8 hours in between, or 6 hours or 7 hours. Whenever that kind of gap happens, your gastric acids go up, they rise, and that is why it can lead to gastritis. So insulin per se will not cause gastritis. It could be because of some other diabetes medication you are taking. Metformin, a drug commonly given for diabetes, can cause gastritis in some patients. So you can check for that. And again, you should definitely eat something 4 to 5 hours after each meal so that sugar levels also remain under control and you don't get gastritis. Will you recommend non-veg food for diabetic patients or not? Again, this is a myth that non-veg food is not recommended. Please remember, non-veg food is in fact high in protein. It's very healthy if you take it in the healthy format. Don't overcook it. Don't deep fry it. Taking it in the soup or gravy form is absolutely healthy. And if you don't have any other issue, you can consume non-veg food with diabetes. There is no problem. In fact, it is good. And I've seen in my patients consuming fish or chicken have good sugar control. So there is absolutely no reason for not consuming non-veg food. Obviously, remember, even egg, there is a myth that you should only eat the egg white and not the egg yellow. Consuming egg in limited numbers is good, and you should eat the whole egg. Okay, so eat one whole egg a day is not going to harm your cholesterol or your sugar levels. So don't worry about that. I'll go through some other questions. Is COVID-19 more dangerous for type 1 diabetes as compared to type 2? Again, the type does not matter. Your sugar control matters. If your glucose is well under control and you're following your diet and medicine regularly, don't worry about COVID infection, whether you're type 1 diabetic or type 2 diabetic. Next question I have is here. Yes. Yeah, I'll just check once. Does drinking warm water prevent? I've already answered that. Warm water will not prevent COVID-19 infection. Drink room temperature water. Don't drink too much warm water. Does COVID-19, next question, any tips for diabetic patients during COVID time? As I told you, most important, leave your unnecessary stress away. You cannot control the future, so stop bothering about it. Look at yourself, look at your own health, look at your family's health. Follow the government guidelines very strictly. They're telling you for a reason. So follow them. Eat healthy. Monitor your sugar regularly. You will have no problem with COVID. What is the mean HbA1c we should consider if you are a pre-diabetic? It's a good question for everyone. Please remember, HbA1c or glycosylated hemoglobin means your sugar control for a period of 3 months. So it's a very good indicator of how your sugar has been for the last 3 months. It comes in the form of a value as a percentage. So a person who's normoglycemic, who does not have pre-diabetes or diabetes, will have an HbA1c under 5.6. Anybody between 5.7 to 6.4 is called a pre-diabetic as per international guidelines. And if your HbA1c level is above 6.5, then you are considered to be a diabetic. So if you are between 5.7 to 6.4, you're getting a very good opportunity, remember, to become normal now. You become normoglycemic. Many patients have reversed their diabetes at that stage, right? So you just have to take good diet and follow physical exercise. Physical activity is very important in that case to reverse that pre-diabetes stage. Okay. Next, is jamun beneficial for diabetic patients? Yes, jamun has many chemical contents which improve the insulin sensitivity in the pancreas. That means your insulin hormone, which is generally defective in diabetes, can function better. So jamun is definitely scientifically a good fruit to eat for diabetics and for every one of us because it is very rich in vitamins also, right? Next question. So a patient has said the patient is having low sodium and potassium looks to me to be normal. how much water. If you are a cardiac patient, that means if you are having any heart failure issue or cardiac issue, I can give a general broad guideline. Restrict your daily intake of water to 1200 to 1300 ml and keep a measured bottle with you while drinking water if you have heart disease or heart failure nature. And remember, include the water that you're consuming during your food, like tea, your gravies and soups also contain water, and the total amount should be between 1200 to 1300. I've tried to answer that on that behalf. Yeah, and there's another question here. Yes. Diabetes and COVID causing psychological stress, how to manage? Remember, your mind is a limited space. Okay, mind, our mind, where all the thoughts are, is a very limited space. Now, this can keep only limited thoughts. Okay, at some point, your mind will be full of thoughts. And what will you be full of? You're full of negative thoughts. You're thinking, what is wrong? The infections are increasing. Something bad is happening around me. I will get the infection. I'll be admitted. I'll have this problem. So you are creating negative thoughts. Your negative thoughts make your mind full. Okay. And there is no space for positive thoughts. So how you can create positive thoughts? First, remove all the negative thoughts. I told you, do what is under your control. What is under your control? To take care of yourself. Can you do that much? It's enough, right? And psychological stress can be reduced, one, by reducing your news time that you're spending, your screen time that you're spending in social media, sharing information and misinformation on COVID. Just forget it. Watch some good TV series that you like. Go back to your old childhood days. Watch some old cartoons. Watch some good programs. Do some indoor gardening. Solve some puzzles. Play games with your family members. Playing cards. Playing Ludo. Cooking is a very good way of getting de-stress. Try something new. All these simple things can improve your psychological stress levels very beautifully, and you'll start enjoying your days in the lockdown also. Please remember, the day this lockdown ends, the virus is not going to disappear from our community. It's going to stay here, and for very long it's going to stay. So how can we take care of ourselves during this period? This period is going to last for more than 6 to 8 months till the first vaccine comes up, and we have a real cure for this problem. So we will have to keep our social distance outside. We'll have to be very careful while going in gatherings among people. We have to stay healthy, because the hospitals and healthcare system will be still overloaded. So we don't want to load them more with non-COVID illnesses. So we'll have to be careful. So is this period going to end someday? No. I mean, in the next near future? No. But it's very important that you keep it for a long period of time. You have to be careful. I'll answer some quick questions here. What exercise will you suggest for a gestational diabetes patient at home? I told you simple stretching exercises are very good, and doing yoga is now considered to be very good for diabetes, and in a pregnant woman also. Simple yoga asanas can reduce your stress levels also, can control your sugar levels also. So there is very good evidence on that. Another question, can a diabetic patient take sugar-free on a daily basis? Again, I'll tell you, you have to control your tongue, change your taste patterns, use more other taste enhancers instead of depending on sugar. Taking sugar-free substitutes also for a very prolonged time is not advised in any case. But if you have urge, maybe once a week, maybe once in 10 days, you can consume some sweet made out of a sugar-free substitute if you have the urge. That controls your urge. Please remember, don't end up increasing your craving to that extent that you go and consume some high dose sugar item and then raise your sugar level. So it's better to deal with your crave at regular intervals. There's another question, which fruits are beneficial? I already enlisted them. All citrus fruits, apples, pomegranates, pineapples, watermelon, all guava, peach, pears, strawberries, all are good. Kiwis, dragon fruits, all are good for sugar. Even oranges and sweet limes. So most fruits are good for diabetes. Next question, an obese patient who's normoglycemic can take metformin extended release for improving insulin sensitivity. Again, the guidelines tell us that metformin should be given only if you have evidence of metabolic syndrome. That means you have other issues along with the weight gain, or you have pre-diabetes. But per se, metformin being used for obesity or improving your weight, if you don't have other hormonal issues, I don't think will be beneficial. But definitely, if a woman has polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOD as it is called, where the menstrual cycle is also irregular and there is obesity, their metformin is a wonder drug to improve your insulin sensitivity. So it can really benefit you there. But again, under medical guidance with your doctor. A pregnant lady having COVID-19, can her child also get COVID-19? No, not necessary at all. We are getting multiple cases. It's an evolving disease. So all the information we have is from what is coming up in front of us. So what we are seeing in majority cases, pregnant women who are delivering kids, babies, healthy, they are delivering healthy babies, and if the baby is kept separated for a period of time till the mother heals of her infection, then there's a very less chance of developing COVID-19. In terms of breastfeeding, I think the guidelines are telling us to avoid it for 5 to 7 days and depend on other sources like top feeds for the newborn baby, so that the mother and child interaction is reduced while she's active. But don't worry, it's not necessary if the pregnant lady has COVID, her child will get COVID. Most babies are healthy. Next, if a patient is suffering from diabetes with chronic kidney disease, what type of supplements and exercises are advised? Please remember, if you're a diabetic with chronic kidney disease, the most important thing is to consume a low protein diet. Consuming a very high protein diet is very bad because it will worsen your kidney condition. It will worsen the filtration of kidney. So low protein diet. So then you have to avoid non-vegetarian food if you have diabetes and chronic kidney disease. Consuming simple carbohydrates, simple fats, and simple easily digestible proteins like your dals and pulses are good. Fruits also, you have to be selective because you have to monitor your potassium levels. Some fruits are high in potassium, so they should be avoided if you have kidney disease. So again, as I told you, this should be under the control of a good doctor and a dietitian who will tell you what supplements you can take. If you have chronic kidney disease, exercise is no problem. Doing some healthy exercises like some aerobic exercises, some weight training is obviously beneficial. Again, if you have severe or very advanced kidney disease, I would not advise you to do excessive strenuous exercise. There's another question. How often should I test my blood sugar? What should I do if it is too high or too low? If you are a non-diabetic, checking your blood sugars once a year is fine. If you are a pre-diabetic, check it every 3 months and get your goals of on which trend are you going. Is your sugar going up, going down? And you can get your HbA1c done for that every 3 months. If you're a diabetic, then you have to be more frequent. If you're well controlled, stable sugars once a month is fine. If you're on insulin or your sugars are very fluctuant or variable, then you have to do it much more often. If it's too high, obviously, or too low, you have to consult a doctor. If it's too high, there could be multiple reasons. One, the medicine that you're currently taking might not be as effective now. That happens with many medicines in diabetes. If they are taken over a prolonged time, their effectiveness reduces. And if you are talking about diet and exercise, if you have been very sedentary and consuming junk food, then also it can spike your sugars. Thirdly, most importantly, taking excessive unnecessary stress. So I think those are the areas you have to look at. How much liters of water is advisable for diabetic patients per day? You've given me some values. Creat is 1.5. Creat, if it's a man, it is still borderline. I would be more happier with something less than 1.2. They've said urea is 68. Definitely it's a little higher. Patient is on diamicron MR 60 twice daily. Advise insulin started Lantus. Please advise. Just one sec. On water intake, I think. So water intake, again, healthy water intake would be 1 to 1.5 liters for any person of this nature. Some restriction is required to that extent. And again, very important to maintain your sugar levels, because this all is reversible. Your urea, your creat and all is very reversible. It can come down easily only if your sugar levels remain under control for a prolonged period of time. And yes, insulin will be a good suggestion here, because insulin can be given easily if you have high creat. It does not impact your kidney and can improve your sugar levels much faster than tablets. So yes, it's a good advice. Any specific precautions to be taken for elderly people? Please keep your elderly people safe. Your elderly people should wash their hands regularly, 3 to 4 times a day, even if they are at home whole day. So don't think only you have to wash your hands with soap because you've gone outside. Remember, from outside you're bringing a lot of stuff. You're getting medicines, grocery, other things. You're yourself coming into the house and you're touching various things. So again, your elderly can touch those things and there can be some transmission. Already the immunity is a little low. So I will advise, even before eating, before doing anything, elderly people should generally wash their hands with soap for at least 20 seconds thoroughly. That can keep them safe and keep them close to you but away from you physically. Keep emotionally close but physically a little away. Give them a separate room to stay. If you're feeling sick, keep away from them and immediately inform, because it's not only your health, as I told you, your elderly's health is much more important than you. Going with another question. For a heart patient, is it good to go for work at office 3 times a week in this COVID situation? How to be safe and take necessary precautions? Definitely for a heart patient, you should speak to your physician and you should speak to your employer on allowing you to work from home, because obviously when you're traveling and you're going to a workplace where there are other people, you have slightly high chances of developing COVID. So I will advise you to stay at home. That's the advisory everybody is giving. So I think you should speak to your physician and all. If they're insisting you, it's an essential service and you cannot control that. If you're going, please carry a sanitizer with you. You can wear gloves during while going out. But remember one more thing, that just merely wearing gloves doesn't mean you don't have to wash your hands, because gloves are also penetrable. They are not impenetrable. So when you remove your gloves and dispose them off, wash your hands same way as you would have done even without wearing a glove. That is very important. And keep safe distance from people. After coming back home, dispose of your footwear outside. Whatever clothes you are wearing, wash them separately in hot water. That's again expected. Take a good shower, and then once you're settled, cleaned up, only then touch anything. Again, keep a little distance from your children and elderly in your home if you have to go outside every day or regularly. Moving on. Another is herd immunity without vaccine possible against COVID-19. Interesting question. Please remember, to develop herd immunity, we have to have the infection reaching at least 60 to 70% of our population. So for 130 crore Indians, it will be approximately 100 crore Indians have to develop the COVID-19 infection. Only then they will have developed herd immunity. And we know that the current death rate is between 3.5 to 4% in India. Even if I consider that due to herd immunity, there will be more milder infections, still 1 to 1.5% will be the death rate. So do you think that for 100 crore people to get the herd immunity, we should sacrifice 1.5 to 2 crore Indians, especially the elderly and the disadvantaged poor people to this? I don't think so. So definitely herd immunity is not an option for COVID-19. Why? Because it is a disease that can cause mortality. That is very important. Suppose it was a disease which was only causing cold and cough and maybe some infection and the people were healing easily, then herd immunity would have been beneficial. But for COVID-19 with mortality rate, the best mortality rates also 0.6 to 1%. So even for 100 crore Indians, imagine 1 crore Indians will have to be sacrificed. It's absolutely unacceptable. So we have to wait for the vaccine. Until we wait for the vaccine, we have to be very careful. As I told you, follow all social distancing norms till we get a good vaccine in place. There are some more questions. Can you explain the ideal ratio of carbohydrates, fat and proteins for chronic diabetics? Simple, it's very simple. 60%, up to 60% of your food should be carbohydrate. Up to 30% should be fats. In that, the saturated fats, that is butter, cheese and ghee, should be less than 10%. You should also have healthy fats in the form of polyunsaturated fatty acids, good oils, dry fruits. These are good source of oil. Having nuts and seeds are good fats. And 10%, that should be 10%. And should be another 15 to 20% can be your proteins. So this is the kind of ratio that you should follow. Again in Ramadan, how much amount of water is required to reduce dehydration, constipation? When you break your fast in the evening, you should take very good amount of water, very important. And for avoiding constipation, again I said only water won't help. You have to take good amount of fiber, and that can only come from eating fruits, not drinking juices, and eating healthy salads. That can help you. Okay, so focus on fibers. Don't consume too much of junk food or fried food once you break your fast. Moving on. Any COVID patient recovered, and is there any chance he'll get again COVID-19? Again, as I told you, it's an evolving disease. We really don't know how much of the virus mutating around us, and whether when it mutates, it totally changes its structure and becomes a very different virus. That could happen and can cause reinfection. But again, evidence is very low as of now. We are not seeing reinfection at any scale to be really very worried about. For now, we think that it affects the person once and the person then develops healthy antibodies. But I think as the diagnostics improve, We should soon get some test which will test our antibody levels against the COVID-19 virus. And if our antibody levels are healthy, then definitely we are well protected. In fact, even the vaccine is wanting that. The vaccine will end up inoculating you with a inactivated virus, and it will want your antibodies to improve so that when you really get an infection, at that time it will be very easy to manage. Okay. Just 1 second. We'll close the session with 1 or 2 more questions. I can take it. How can hydroxychloroquine help in COVID? Can we treat ourselves? Please, it is not advised to take hydroxychloroquine in COVID-19 without medical advice. The current guidelines are saying that hydroxychloroquine should only be given to healthcare workers who are in close contact with COVID-19 patients and family members who are in close contact with COVID-19 patients. Again, the dosing has to be decided by the treating physician. So don't take hydroxychloroquine on your own. Just like any other drug, it has its own side effects. So with this, I think I've tried to clear most of the doubts, and I hope it has been a useful session for you. Most important thing before I end, please remember, you should never lose hope. We have battled many wars and many such fights against many infections before, and we are sure we'll win this time also. It's just a matter of time. Until that time comes, we have to be careful and cautious, but definitely not stressed or anxious. Stay happy, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.